Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be talking about endometriosis. I receive a lot of questions and messages about endo and how I manage it, so I thought I would do a little video about it. I also want to add, I'm not a doctor or a health professional. I'm just sharing my experience, and I don't really feel like there's a right or a wrong way to manage endo. That's going to be a personal choice. I'm just sharing my own personal story around this. So first up, what is endometriosis and is it common? So endometriosis is known to be an invisible illness where the tissue that is similar to the lining of the uterus is found outside of it in other parts of the body. So it is most commonly found in the lower pelvic region, so your fallopian tubes and your ovaries, and it could also latch onto other organs, so for example your bowel and your bladder, and it could also spread up to your diaphragm, which is what's happened in my case. So what happens is as the body is unable to clear away the tissue, it causes swelling and inflammation, which then leads to really severe pain. So not your normal period pain, it's quite more severe than that. It kind of feels like someone is really squeezing onto your ovaries really tightly, or someone is sort of like punching your lower abdomen. I know that kind of sounds really extreme, but I don't really know any other way to sort of explain it. The cause of endometriosis is not really known, and it is also known though that it affects 1 in 10 women. So the more that I found that I've opened up about it, I'm finding there are a lot more women out there with endometriosis and that are going through some sort of similar experiences. So what are some of the symptoms of endometriosis? So for every individual, the symptoms are really going to vary, or some women may have endo and find that they don't have any symptoms at all. But some of the symptoms may include pelvic pain, nausea, lower back pain, migraines, infertility, dizziness, brain fog, poor concentration, bloating, irregular bleeding, fluctuating of the weight as well. So yeah, it definitely comes down to every individual and their unique journey and what's sort of going on inside of their body as well. So how do you find out if you have endometriosis? The only way to get diagnosed for endo is by having a laparoscopy surgery. I think that's how you say it, laparoscopy. I always have trouble saying that word. But that involves a thin telescope that goes through your belly button, and you have to go under local anesthetic, and the doctor can place further incisions sort of around your lower abdomen and your pelvic region to go in and clear away the endometriosis. Because there is no cure for this condition, women can find too that they can have multiple surgeries throughout their lifetime as well, so they're constantly sort of being cut open. Also with this condition, women can go undiagnosed and untreated for quite some time, so we're simply told to sort of like toughen up, or you'll be fine, or it's just sort of another period, you'll be, get on with it kind of thing. But it's actually a lot more severe than that. Your body really is going through such a tough time in there, trying to adjust or fight away with whatever it is going on inside your body. So I was diagnosed with endometriosis about, I think it was a year ago now, and for me it was kind of like I was happy to find an answer, because I had no idea what was going on with my body and I was getting really frustrated. I was going through a lot of different symptoms at that time, or I was experiencing probably symptoms a year up leading to my surgery, if that makes sense. And then even before that, I had other symptoms like 3 or 4 years prior, but I didn't really recognize that was sort of, I guess, related to endo. Some of the symptoms that I experienced were like pelvic pain, chronic fatigue, which was a huge one for me, brain fog, poor concentration. I felt really short of breath, and just to the point where my body just didn't really want to function. So I would find that I would wake up in the morning and I would feel dizzy, short of breath, and kind of like my body just didn't want to go. Even though in my head I was like, okay, I'm up, gotta start my day kind of thing. But my body sort of wanted to do another thing and just didn't want to function at all. So I found like the smallest of tasks really challenging for me. I would go from doctor appointment to doctor appointment, trying to find out what was going on inside my body and to try and find out why I was receiving all of these symptoms, but nothing was sort of led to endometriosis. Throughout that year leading up to my surgery, I was having like iron injections, various injections, different tests to find out what exactly was happening with me. But yeah, again, nothing was led to endometriosis, and after a while I was getting like tired of being tired and not having an answer as to knowing what was sort of going on inside of my body. And it wasn't until I had like really irregular bleeding, so I was bleeding every 2 weeks, and I was getting really fed up because I was having the iron injection, so it was kind of like, well, the iron infusions, and it was kind of like a catch-22 really, because my body just felt so drained constantly. So from there I went to the doctor again and asked further questions. I had a pap smear and a lot of blood came out. I know that sounds really forward, but it's the truth. And from there I went to get an ultrasound done, which is where they found that I had cysts and polyps on my ovaries. And from there I went to the gynecologist, and from there I then had the surgery, which is where they found severe endometriosis, which has also spread up to my diaphragm. So after my surgery, I was told that I would need to go on the pill or some form of contraceptive to help manage the endometriosis. Now for me, that didn't really sit quite well, only because about maybe 4 years prior to my surgery, I was about 23. I went off the pill, and I went off it then because I had been on the pill for many, many years, since I was about 10, and I didn't like the way it made my body felt. And I also felt that going back on the pill, it would just mask my symptoms and not really get down to the root cause of it. So it didn't really sit right with me. So I decided to do further research about endometriosis and other different ways to sort of manage it. I also want to add that I'm not against the pill. It might be perfect for you and your journey and help you in the process. But for me, I made the personal choice that I just didn't want to go down that avenue again. So after I did my research, I decided to take the holistic method to balance out my hormones, and I sourced a holistic doctor, a naturopath and acupuncturist to help manage the endo and balance out my hormones. So far I found this really, really beneficial for me, and I've been having lots of like treatments and herbal remedies, making sure that I'm doing all the right things on a day-to-day basis. And it's taken quite some time, but I'm actually feeling or noticing improvements, which is really, really great. But I also want to add that it hasn't happened overnight for me. So I probably started seeing the health professionals maybe about 6 weeks after my surgery, and I probably didn't really see a lot of results until I was maybe in November, December, at the end of the year. And yeah, so it's definitely, I believe, consistency across a lot of different things. From, like, for example, I have apple cider vinegar when I first wake up in the morning, lemon water throughout my day, peppermint tea throughout my day. I make sure I stick to anti-inflammatory foods as well. Probably going to notice a few light changes in this video. I initially filmed towards the end of the day and the sun was going down quite quickly, so I just thought I would come back on another day and film the rest of it. But as I was saying, I eat a lot of anti-inflammatory foods and stick to dairy gluten-free, which I found quite beneficial for me. So sometimes I might have a little bit of gluten, but it's mainly dairy that I cut out. I do really love my chocolate, so I have found that a little bit hard, but I have found a dairy-free alternative which I really enjoy, so I don't feel like I'm missing out on any of the good things. But to be honest, I feel like there are so many options available to us now for people that are dairy and gluten-free. So yeah, I really feel like we're lucky to have that. I'm also conscious of the thoughts that I'm fueling myself with. So if I am having an off day and I'm not feeling 100%, I make sure that I'm not being so harsh on myself in those moments and reminding myself that it's okay to feel what I'm feeling. I've also found being open and honest with the people that are around you, so making sure you find a really supportive and positive, strong network, and by opening up and being honest again with how you're feeling, it allows you to show up as you are and give them an insight to what's sort of going on inside of you. And I think initially I did find that I guess sort of struggled with that, because it wasn't always that I sort of wanted to burden other people with what was sort of going on, if that makes sense. And I also drink a lot of water and make sure that I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. But definitely from my treatments, I feel like my cycles have become a lot more regular, and that, you know, my energy levels have increased and my hormones are probably getting to a better state in my body. I also ensure I'm conscious of how I move in my body and tapping into or tuning into my body and listening to the messages that it's telling me. I partake in a lot of lighter movements, so yoga, Pilates and light walking, so I found that really beneficial for me. Back when I was really unwell, I participated in probably a lot more weight training, and I found that my body was in resistance to this, so it was doing the opposite and I was putting on weight. And I know my body quite well, as you do, and this wasn't normal. I knew that that wasn't normal for me, so in the end I decided to take a step back, and my body responded quite well from that. But I am an active, motivated and determined person, so I did find this quite challenging because at the time I had no idea what was going on with my body, and yeah, I felt really frustrated with that, especially because I also found that even going for a light walk I would feel short of breath. And it's really hard to explain sometimes to people sort of what you're going through, even though it is important to be open and honest as well. Again, like I said before, I had no idea what was going on, and I had no specific answer from anyone or from any of my treatments that I was going through back then, or I should say my testing that I was going through back then. So if I am having an off day, I like to have an Epsom salt bath, or I use my essential oils. Lavender and clary calm are probably my favorite. I use heat packs and heat pads. I find that these all definitely make my body a lot calmer in that moment and not so tense. It doesn't necessarily, I guess, take pain away, but it definitely helps me to relax a little bit more. I feel that being diagnosed with endo definitely puts into perspective that just because you look fine on the outside and don't look sick doesn't really mean that, you know, you're fine on the inside. And I feel that I probably could speak on behalf of a lot of girls out there that do have endo, that there is a lot of shifts going on internally and a lot of different adjustments, so it's important to sort of, I guess, never judge a book by its cover. Also, I believe mindset is key, and every day I choose to see things differently, even though I guess this condition is quite painful and obviously not the best scenario given, but I do try and see the gift in every situation. And for me, I have found that I can be quite on the go at times, so it has allowed me to really take a step back and slow down a lot more. I choose to really show up for myself and make that commitment to me in order to be able to heal my body and get the right support that it needs throughout the healing process. So yeah, I really hope that you've enjoyed watching this video and listening to my personal story, and I hope that it also assists you to keep asking further questions, to seek further help where needed, and also to not give up in your own personal journey. I'll chat to you soon. Bye for now.